This one you go back. Okay. We'll start. Hello, learned friends and viewers in general. You're welcome to this special chat with our learned senior advocates, Charlse, Ajuyah, SAN. It's a chat on the auspicious occasion of the golden jubilee of our amiable senior advocate of Nigeria, Chief Thompson, Joseph Onomigbo, Okpoko, SAN, OON, FCArb, one who has actually spent 50 years to promote the practice of law in Nigeria. And here we have another senior advocate that went through him. And at least, if you have not heard from any other person about the life and time of Chief Okpoko, he is one person that you should listen to so that you can have an idea about who Chief is. Learned senior advocate, sir, you are welcome to this edition of the MBA Warri Branch webinar series, which is actually designed to promote the practice of law in Nigeria and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So we want to ask you some questions concerning your experience with learned senior advocates. You have worked with them for well over 20 years, and it is from this renowned law firm you became a senior advocate of Nigeria. We want to have a thought about working with him.
Well, thank you very much. You are right when you said I've had a working relationship with him for over 20 years. In fact, I was called to the Nigerian bar in November 1988. And barely 1 week after that, I joined the firm as a junior counsel. And as a result of hard work and his prompting and a show of leadership, I worked hard And by 1989, myself and others who were in the firm were elevated to the rank of partners on the firm. But I must say that my own experience with him started years before that. Even before I became a lawyer, we had a relationship based upon my father's relationship with him, and this one dated back to 1971. And so I came into the firm understanding, who Okpoko is. And so I had no difficulty appreciating his leadership. I had no difficulty understanding him and his working routine. And in fact, apart from the office, we also had relationship at home. So that enabled me to really appreciate him, and we got on very well. But by and large, is a man. If you are close to him, you'll find that he's a man that is a man of diligence. He's a man of who will always be a guide to anyone. And of course, he's firm, and also he could be very accommodating in his outlook and in his thinking. So, for that, in terms of law, of course, he's a master. He's a master of it, a master of the role. So, Okpoko, in terms of practice, is one that you really need to get the basics from. And of course, if you follow that, I'm sure that the sky is going to be your limit.
Oh, thank you, many senior advocates. We observed in the course of researching the law firm, Chief Okpoko, and you, we discovered, and some other partners, we discovered that he's actually exposed you people to some novel areas of practice. Could you tell us something about those novel areas of practice and how they've actually improved the law practice in Nigeria?
Well, you see, the practice here, particularly in Warri office, where we started from, was basically litigation. And of course, in this area of litigation, we had bias towards land litigation. We had bias for oil and gas practice. And so these are areas where we were able to make our marks in the practice of law. And underlying these areas, of course, is his mastery of the law of evidence and practice and procedure. And so we had to do the rudimentary of them all, then we also took on the practice of them all. In fact, if you work in the firm, the first 2 years in the firm, if you don't get it right, then I'm sure you will not get it right elsewhere. So that was the benchmark upon which we started practice. And in fact, most of the clients that we had at that time, I'm talking about in the 80s and 90s, who were our clients, they regarded us as the Okpoko lions, because they would tell Okpoko, don't even bother to come, send your lions to court. And when we went there, we rattled even the senior advocates who were on the other side, particularly those coming from outstation. We rattled them. And of course, sometimes they never showed up again in the cases. So these are the rudiments which we learned from him. And one of the things that made us is we work with him, he puts you through and show you how to be confident in your matter, particularly understanding your case. And of course, anybody close with him that has practiced under him will tell you that you get it right if you're able to have a clear instructions from your client, and also you're able to identify the issues involved in the matter. And on that, you build whatever you want to do. So these are the areas where we have really learned from him. And that has really, really given us the experience to tackle any other matter, even in the new areas we went into later on. Of course, we did some maritime matters, and we also dealt with banking matters in this area of letter of credit and the others. And these are where we got good experience from.
So, in your view, what are some other law firms who are yet to be at the stage you are now in this law firm? What are these other lawyers? What do they actually stand to learn from you uh, working with Chief Okpoko?
Now, you see, first and foremost, this office, as far back as 1989, we realized that success in practice does not depend on the solo practice. Success in practice depended more on getting a variety of lawyers together with a common purpose of satisfying the client. And of course, underlining that is what we call the partnership. And on that basis, we understood that 2 plus 2 is equal to 5, which in business we refer to as the positive signage. So it's focusing and being together and not being greedy and working for the common goal of a client so that at the end of the day, your client gets the collective experience of the lawyers in the firm. So it is easy for one to break out, to have a solo firm, be it in the name of partnership, but really underlining it is a solo firm. You see, you do not really have that synergy to help you in practice. So there are things sometimes where issues here we discuss here in the office as partners, and when we discuss them, sometimes we're bold enough to tell people that look, we don't agree with you. This is our view, and we show it that this is the reason why we. Sometimes he agrees with us ultimately, but we have that synergy, and the clients are happy with that, and the clients benefit from that. So my advice to younger firms is that running a solo practice is not, you might not be able to give, no matter how brilliant you are, your client will not have the benefit of a collective experience. Of course, that's one of the things that we have in the office, that collective experience. We have the younger ones, we have the older ones, and we have the middle one. So we all sit down in what we call the black table to discuss all these issues.
That's quite interesting. Um, Working with Chief Okpoko for over 20 years now, you talked about in the 80s.
Precisely about 30 years.
Yeah,
31.
about 30 years. Can you give us an idea about specialization, your specialization, as far as you're working as a managing partner of the law firm is your specialization?
Well, I have specialization. One of the things that you will know is that in this part where we work, we have bias to certain aspects of law, and which we tend to, which we have had experience over, and we put it into practice. One of them, which what is civil litigation, particularly appellate matters, of course, have carried on these areas for quite some time. So, appellate matters and in areas of commercial practice are areas where I've really had an exposure and I have a great bias for. So, I enjoy those areas of practice. And through that, we have this working arrangement where when matters like this come in, of course, I take the lead in it, in trying to put others online. And the other partners in the firm, some are in land matters and some in chieftaincy matters in this office. And of course, taking about the offices, we've tried to make our Abuja office more of administrative law and constitutional law, while in Lagos office, it's also commercial, purely commercial and on real estate.
That goes a long way to tell us that you have a unique type of specialization, departmentalizing the nature of specialization in the different offices. Like in Abuja, you have administrative, real estate slash constitutional law. Then Lagos, you have commercial because it's the commercial hub of Nigeria. Then Warri, of course, we know very well land matters, chieftaincy, and all that. And this is actually one thing that so many other law firms are yet to really understand about law practice. Because in our earlier interaction with our chief, we discovered that even before we started the conversation, looking at the structure of the law firm, we discovered that you have a robust partnership. It's for me, I would call it unbreakable partnership. What is actually in your view, not from chief's point of view, in your view, because you keyed into the initiative because of something that you saw, which he may not have actually seen. What is the secret?
Now, let me say this. You see, we've had, over the years, from 1989, our partnership is well documented. We've had a first, we revised it some years later. In fact, I think we are on the fourth revised partnership agreement, which we have. And these are partnership agreements are duly stamped and registered. And of course, with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Now, one thing about our partnership, it's built on trust and is built on each of us having that is sufficient for us, that are sustainable, the basic necessity of life. That is why it is built on. I'm sure that if our partnership is built on one trying to outdo the other one in terms of wealth, perhaps I'm sure that the partnership will have crashed. So what I'm trying to say is that partnership is built on trust and also noting that there are others under you that you have to look after and not just yourself. So that is how our partnership is structured. So whatever comes in on a agreed formula, we do the sharing, but not forgetting those who work with us. And in fact, even up to the cleaner in the office, we recognize that they have to be looked after first, even before the partners are looked after.
Very interesting. It's very revealing. Our session with Chief was something else, more than 2 hours, but it's like we shouldn't bring it to an end. And here's another one again,
Yeah.
which is so revealing.
Yeah.
And that is actually what a lot of lawyers, because Chief Okpoko is a frontline legal luminary in Nigeria.
Yes, no doubt about it.
And the law firm is one of Nigeria's most active law firms with seasoned senior advocates as it stands today. In those days, we used to talk about Afe Babalola. But Afe Babalola is no longer in active legal practice. Here you have you there and Chief there, still in active legal practice. In fact, when we were discussing with him earlier on, he was talking with the zest of a youth, and we imagine where this kind of zeal came from. Now, with the COVID-19 problems that we have had, one would have actually thought that it would have made you people to have a kind of a mindset that, hey, this problem wants to take job, from us. But coming into the office, you're looking around, you see some tech-related initiatives. You see that, okay, this office is this law firm is prepared for tech, anything related to tech and all that. And we begin to imagine, how come this kind of idea about law practice, was it that you prepared for these COVID-19 challenges before now, or you just thought about it that you should do something about it?
Well, let me clear one issue. You made reference to Are Afenwalala. Well, I'm not quite sure we can say that it's not in active practice. I think he's doing it at the level in which he wants to do it.
Okay.
But be that as it may, coming to your question about technology and the others, I will say this, that indeed, in the whole of Delta and indeed those states, we were privileged to be the first firm that computerized our office. I say that because when we started at about 1988, or just before 88, we had computers in our office. In fact, going to our archive, the first computer is still in the archive here. And we had a lady from Ghana who managed that computerization of it. In fact, we did away with manual typewriters and all, Imperial 90s and the others which we met, even though those Imperial 90 typewriters are still in the archives. But we deliberately left those early computers in the office. And of course, we started doing our briefs through computers. So the question of writing, counseling, typing, and other things we no longer had those things. And I can also tell you that even our archives, we have files that predated even the partnership. They're all there, and we have now put them in soft copies and in the library. And in fact, we find it even till today, we find it difficult to dispose of those hard copies. In fact, if you go across there, you'll find files. Surprisingly, clients still come, or children of clients still come to say, look, we understand our father did so and so and so and so. And all we need to do is to go to the computer room, we press it, he tells us where that file is, and we're able to retrieve it. So even our library, we had hard copies, we've also had soft copies of all law reports. So coming to the COVID time, we were prepared for this even before the COVID. We didn't know that COVID was coming, but we were working ahead of our peers in trying to modernize our office.
Very interesting. Wow. That invariably means that this firm actually prepares for virtual law practice.
Yes.
Even before it's got firmly established, in terms of directives. What is your view about virtual law practice?
Well, it is okay. It's the direction the world is going to. But there are issues, particularly in Nigeria, that will slow it down. And these are issues of infrastructure. Yes, it's good that my office is well equipped, but having a client who is in a remote area and have difficulties in power and have difficulties in linking up, I mean, that becomes an issue. I mean, if you go to the advanced country, no matter the country you are, you always have access to power, you have access to internet and the others. But of course, even within Warri here, most of the time we have data problems, except you're on the, you have the serial high tech, but your clients may not be able to do that.
Yes.
So, but the courts again, we're talking about, there are some courts that are located in the rural areas. I mean, so question of power, question of data becomes an issue. Even if the judges can or do have data, but that may not be, for the entire court system to use. So it's a direction we should go, but the government has to step up its development of infrastructure, particularly the IT infrastructure in this country, because there's no alternative again to it for now.
Very, very revealing. Chief talked about the alternative. We asked him some questions concerning alternative legal business structure or legal business structure, which lawyers can get involved in. And we don't know whether you share the same thoughts with them, because we found something so revealing, in talking with them. There used to be this idea that lawyers should not get involved in business, or law firms should not get involved. They get involved in non-law related business. And Chief came up with a very novel approach, to it. And I think if other lawyers in Nigeria get to know this, it will improve law practice as it were, which this particular chart is is really seeking to achieve. So, what is our thought?
Now, you see, my own take on this is that as legal practitioners, we have the rules of professional ethics. If we are practicing law as legal practitioners, then we have to also note and bear in mind the rules of professional ethics. The rules of professional ethics does not say you should not have an alternative stream of income, but it's your level of participation in the alternative stream of income that matters.
Yeah.
Now, if as a legal practitioner, I decide to have a cement store, and I go in the morning to the cement store, I come in the afternoon to practice my law, and I put all of them together, of course, the law frowns at that. But nothing stops me from having a business where I have interest and I have people managing it day to day. And all that they do is to say, this is the profit from that business, and I know that this is what I've earned from that business. But I will not pull my wig and go to the store in the morning and sell and get clients to come and meet me in the shop, and I take instructions from them. From there, I go to the court. I mean, certainly the profession forbids that. But nothing stops me from incorporating a company which is into real estate, which is into services, and you have managing directors, you have general managers who manage that day to day. But at the end of the day, of course, they have to make their annual, they have to make their reports, and of course, we see their ledgers, and of course, whatever one earns from that business, it's an investment. So, as a firm, nothing stops us from saying we're investing in shares. Nothing stops us from investing money in fixed deposits. Nothing stops us from buying properties and putting out to tenants. I mean, in the name, of course, we have businesses, registered businesses, which this firm is engaged in, which we as partners are engaged in, not in as Thompson, Okpoko and co-partners, but I mean, we have examples of them. But we do not get into the day-to-day running of such businesses.
Because I'm happy that you are at the level of the LPDC. You're there, so to a great extent, I can confirm that we can hear from the horse's mouth. So there is very, very revealing. We discovered that one thing that has actually made this law firm to stand out among very much making the law firm different from other law firms is the idea of what we call, if it is safe to say so, the personification of legal research. Like legal research is actually part of the core areas of the practice of this law. Could you share your views about it?
Yeah, you see, really, you cannot carry on a successful legal practice without legal research. But from time to time, you run into novel issues. And of course, your research takes you even out of this country to find solution for your client. And even the day-to-day issues we have, we don't underrate them. We still also go and find what's the current position of the law on it. I mean, that's what puts us ahead, because we have the infrastructure, to do it with ease now. Otherwise, before now, even before we fully computerize the system, particularly with the law reports, of course, we had to do that physically from the library and all. But of course, these days with Law Pavilion and others, makes it easy. But
easy.
one thing that we discovered in the office, and we drew the attention of all in the office too, in this area of research, is you don't pick up a case, particularly those on the internet, and you just take the head and try to apply it. We make sure that the report is read from head to the bottom, and we're able to, get out from it what the ratio of the case is. We're not carried away in this office by held as put in most of the law report, because in fact, what is written there as held could be a misrepresentation of what the court decided.
Yes. Very, very novel and interesting as it were. Okay, now as a way of rounding off this particular chart, though not rounding it off totally, we want to ask. What is your relationship between you as the managing partner of this law firm and the younger lawyers, not as with the senior, not with the partners or the seniors, with the younger lawyers, because these are the people that will have to take over from you people after you have retired to a great extent. When we say retired, maybe you're no longer inactive in your practice. So what is your relationship?
Well, I don't know whether I should be the one to answer that question, because I think that the younger ones will be able to answer that question perfectly. But you see, among my younger colleagues in the office, one thing I know is that this office has its value and culture because it is an environment, it's a space where we have values and culture. And this value and culture, I can tell you, has lasted for over 30 years. In fact, I met, understood it, and participated in it. And here you have juniors coming from outside, and of course from an environment which learning has changed, and they do not understand why certain things are done in a particular way. And so most times when one tries to impact this value and culture, they look at one as
Being too strict.
being too strict in it. But I will not, because of that belief, unwind and said, oh, let me be soft. In fact, I keep telling them that the day you tell me that, oh, Mr. Ajuyah is a very nice man, I know that I failed. What I try to do is that to make sure that I instill discipline, and of course must behave ethically. And also, as a firm, one of the values is that we have this firm as a business to service the clients. And so in doing that, one of the first principles of business is punctuality. And of course, your word should be your bound to your client. There's no point giving a client an appointment for 10 o'clock and you're not here till 4 o'clock. I mean, it makes nonsense of it. And when it comes to resuming time and closing time, I insist on that. And if as little as, oh, I want to go get out of the office, I insist that you must tell your neighbor, oh, I'm stepping out of the office for that. And also, question of work ethics. You are given a job to do, you must apply yourself to the work. You must apply yourself to the work. So these are the things that I tend to enforce on them. And some of them think that, what is so strict? There are days where we're working up to 3 a.m. and all. But here, a lawyer wants to work, and when it's 5 o'clock, he wants to go. I said, it's not a civil service place. You must, work and satisfy yourself that you've done a day's job for a day's pay. Most of them are not happy with it, but I will not lose my sleep about that. because I know that tomorrow it's something that they will benefit from. I'll give you this example. When I was some years, even before I became senior advocate, I had some junior lawyers who worked under me. And of course, I put out that strictness on them. One of them had a came up with the I'm resigning. Of course, she resigned and went home. And of course, he told the father. And the father came to the office and pleaded and said he must go back to the office to work. Of course, she came back to work. After some years, of course, she left to take up appointment somewhere. And at each point in time, she will be telling, oh, people coming to court, oh, look, you don't know the discipline I got in that office on Mr. Ajuyah. You don't know the discipline I got from that office on me. If you were there, you would be behaving this way. I mean, these are the things you get. Yeah. So for me, this is somebody who later in life saw that I was not really against, but I was only saying this is how it is done. And the office has value and culture of work.
Very, very impressive. What has actually been your challenge, or what have been your challenging times in your practice? Because all this what we've been talking about, the good side, because we've got to look at the other side, so that younger lawyers who are coming up and even the senior lawyers who are still struggling will learn one or two things, from your challenging times as far as law practice is concerned. Because getting to see you at a very young age as a senior advocate, because when I came in, I saw your picture there. You're quite much younger there. So what have been these challenging times of yours, which lawyers can learn from?
Well, for me, I find it difficult to say this time challenge. I have challenges every day in terms of legal practice. But what gets me on, that I try to work hard to get over these challenges. Quite frankly, if you sit me down and ask me, like you're asking me now, what is my challenge? I can hardly tell you, because I don't allow these challenges to weigh me down. I move against them, walk over them, and I move on with life. So I live each day at a time. So I've not really had any. If you talk about my traveling, my movement, my studying, I mean, all these are part of the work challenges, and I enjoy them. In fact, that's what has made me the person I am today, because of challenge. But otherwise, without challenges, of course, you don't know success.
Yes. Yeah, if you're just joining us, we are here live in the office of Chief Thompson Onomigbo, Okpoko, in full Chief Thompson Joseph Onomigbo, Okpoko, OON FCArb. And we are on with the learned Sikh, one of the youngest learned Sikhs that we know in this jurisdiction, who is the managing partner of the law firm, and that is the person of Charlse Ajuyah FCArb. It's been giving us some wonderful messages. We've been having some chats with him concerning his experience in the law firm, the cordial relationship between him and our Amigo chief, and the takeaway for the younger lawyers, what younger lawyers stand to benefit from his relationship with chief. As a way of rounding off the interview, Leonard C, what is your message, general message, not just to the younger lawyers, but to both the younger lawyers and even the senior advocates, before we ask you this very important question about the Jusun strike, which crippled the justice administration system for 2 months? Okay, let us take that question before we we get a message.
Now,
the one concerning the Joseph, your thoughts about the Joseph strike?
well, the Joseph strike did not come as a surprise to me because it has been an issue for a long time. Even as Attorney General, my tenure as Attorney General, we also experienced the Joseph strike, but not as prolonged as this. And of course, the settlement we brokered at that time was an interim settlement. And of course, it will appear that the federal government did not, build on that to cover the areas. What happened was merely cosmetics. And of course, that did not address the issues fully. And so it's not surprising that it came up again. And the way I see it even now, there's a kind of retreat. It has not been fully settled. And I will want to say that perhaps this opportunity, all stakeholders in this matter should catch on this and have a focus to try to solve the issues once and for all. Particularly this time, we're talking about constitutional amendment, so that these issues are trashed out and settled. Otherwise, it will become a recurring decimal. So, but be that as it may, the strike was not quite a palatable one to most lawyers. Particularly for those lawyers who depended solely on litigation and court attendance. Of course, that aspect of income having been closed, of course, I'm sure most of them had a shock in their business. So for young lawyers, I would say that as we go on from this strike, we should look at other areas where we can also develop our practice, not just based on court litigation alone.
Yes.
Alternative dispute is also there. We must also think about it. Also carve an inch for yourself. Then coming to the general advice, one thing that has really made things very easy for me, and that has, in fact, brought me to where I am, and I still want to work on it, is what His Lordship Justice Ephraim Apata told me in 1988, just after I finished my law school exams. He told me that you finish your exams now. I have no doubt that you will succeed. But one thing you do to succeed in life is that you must apply yourself to your work. And with that, you will succeed. And nothing succeeds more than success. So I think that for the younger ones, they should apply themselves, to their practice. If they do that, they will succeed. And for the senior advocates and others who are older, they should not give up. They should not take it that, oh, I have arrived, because you can sleep. So I think also the same rule should apply as I advise that apply yourself to your work. And with that, you will not fall short of anything. And above all, we should always take into consideration ethical issues.
It's an RPC.
Ethical issues. Because there's no point you make money and you run foul of the rules of professional conduct. It is not just right. So that's the area we should aspire. We should have goals. Yes, we should do that, but apply ourselves to it, and we do that ethically. That's
so. Now, let me chip in this question quickly. In which, how can they? Because the best, most lawyers don't even understand the RPC. It's some of the provisions relating to adverts or businesses. So it's like they are vague. So from their own perspectives, to them, the thing is too vague. So since it's vague, we do it in our way, and if you just have to do it in the hiding. So I don't know how, in which way can they really understand?
Now I see the point you're making, and I think I agree with you. You see, the problem, I see it, my experience at the LPDC revealed something to me. And at the LPDC, I did a flashback to the law school. And in fact, I had cause to interact with lecturers in the law school that were teaching professional ethics. And I also had opportunity to look at notes. Of course, my children were there, also look at notes. And also interacted with lawyers that come in on court attachment. And what I find is that the rules of professional conduct is taught basically on ideas of the yesteryears. I mean, books like Roger on legal practice is good, but you see, the times have changed, and this recent and modernization is not being brought into it, even without an amendment of the rules. I'm not even talking about amendment. There are areas there that when the subject is being taught, these are not taught with examples. And in fact, what I then decided to do was to, in my own little way, try to remedy this position. And I had to get the directions and rulings from the LPDC that are reported. And in fact, when they are delivered immediately, I send them to the law lecturers in the various law schools to say, look, this is a decision just given on this principle. And by doing that, I expected the lecturers to bring this out as illustration or demonstration, as live examples in the classroom. In that case, it sticks. It sticks. So I think that the teaching of the subject should be more practical in approach. And students are made to read the modern application of these rules to events and facts.
That's very revealing. On this note, Leonard Sig, we want to thank you especially for giving us the opportunity to have a chat with you as part of activities to mark the 50th Golden Jubilee of our Onomigbo Chief Thompson, Joseph, Onomigbo, Okpoko, and Bosmore, as well as Dr. Young. It's been a wonderful time. I think we have FC Juby is watching. A couple of other persons also watching. Some have actually given some thumbs up.
Okay.
On the last platform. And you also have the YouTube. We are streaming it live there. Some will click on it to watch it later. You have this. It's also being recorded. And we also make it available to the MB at any time or maybe to your office. And it's been a wonderful time having a chat with you. We want to thank you so much. Thank you, man.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Do I get the...
Wait, I'm coming.